Good morning, friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing to you our thought for the day on Tuesday morning. And I hope that you are having a great day today. Remember, I am doing this on Sunday afternoon, so I am pre-recording this week so that you will have this since I'll be traveling this week. So pray for me. On Tuesday, I'll be traveling home, and just ask God to give me safety as I travel. But if you remember, we're in Proverbs chapter 30, listening to the words of the wise man Agur. And we're talking about his wisdom that he is seeking and that he is offering to us. And we come down to verse 15, which is really kind of an interesting verse. It says, "The leech has two daughters, give and give. There are three things that are never satisfied. Four never say enough. The grave, the barren womb, the earth that is not satisfied with water, and the fire never says enough." Now think about that. I don't know if you grew up watching movies, but watching Tarzan, the old black and white movie, somebody would inevitably fall into the swamp and they'd come out of the swamp, be covered with leeches, and they'd have to pull them off and it was a pretty nasty sight. And I'll have to tell you that there were times when I was scared to get into the water as a child because of that, always looking for leeches. But a leech is a blood-sucking creature. That's what it does. It's a parasite that latches on and it sucks the blood out of its victim. And this particular leech was called a horse leech, and its appetite was insatiable. And what he's saying here is the leech has two daughters, give and give. He's talking about how the leech is always crying out, saying, give, give, give to me, because it's never enough. And that's what he says in this next verse. He says there are three things that are never satisfied. Four say never, or never say enough. Well, think about that. The grave. People are dying constantly. In my ministry of 39 years, I know that I have done hundreds of funerals, probably close to 1,000 funerals in my ministry, maybe even more than that. We lost a dear friend, Jim McGwirt, this week, and I know one of our members lost a nephew, 52 years old. And we see this day after day. The grave is always reaching up and taking more. Death is one of those things that's always going to happen. The barren womb never says enough because they want children. They want to have that opportunity to bear children. The earth that is not satisfied with water. Think about that. In the summertime at my house, the ground cracks open and you could start pouring water on it. And it just seems like no matter how much water you pour into it, it just sucks it on in. It's never satisfied. And the fire. Of course, the more wood you throw into it, the more it burns, the hotter it burns, the higher it burns, and it never says enough. And here's the thing, that's the way we are in this life. That's what we talked about yesterday with this generation that is always looking into the future, trying to find something else that will satisfy their longings and satisfy their needs. But do you know what God wants for his people? He wants for us to have enough. Not too much, not too little, enough. Because if we have too much, then we're going to take his blessings for granted. We're going to think that we deserve it. We're going to eventually come to the point where we stop praying and asking God to meet our daily needs. And we certainly aren't going to have the attitude of gratitude that is the characteristic of the Christian life. And if we have too little, then we're going to complain all the time, or we're going to do what it takes to get what we need by any means necessary. And then we find ourselves on the wrong side of God's commandments. And so what God wants for us is that we have enough to meet our needs, enough to satisfy us. I love what the Apostle Paul says. In his lifetime, as he was beaten and shipwrecked and bruised and snake bit and all of these things that happened to the Apostle Paul, you remember what he said? He said, "I have learned to be content no matter what state I'm in." Contentment, satisfaction, enough. That's what God wants for you. And that's what I pray for you today. And I hope that you will pray that for me as well. God bless.